Right there guys, I thought I'd do a quick apologies and say sorry for not doing many videos over the last 4 days, is it? I decided to have some time off and sort of have a relax and just get away from filming. Today I thought I'd do a sort of information video on sort of one factor when travelling. Me personally, as you can tell by the title, you know what it's going to be. But me personally, I'm not a vegetarian. I do eat meat and fish and stuff like that. But I have a good idea on what sort of foods are available in certain countries and how other people have found it. So I thought I'd elaborate on what it would be like for a vegetarian to go backpacking. Being a vegetarian while travelling can be quite a daunting factor because you think, you know, you're not too sure if it's going to be like what it is at home. If you're from a Western country, they're very well, you know, prepared, and for those sort of things, pretty much every restaurant you can go to will have a vegetarian option. Even McDonald's. So, you know, so when you go abroad, this thing can change and the comfort can sort of go away. One thing I am going to say is there are certain countries like Mongolia, from what I've heard, I haven't personally been there, which will pretty much be almost impossible to travel as a vegetarian because they mostly eat meat. They don't really grow their own vegetables and they mostly live off things like cows and other animals. I'm probably wrong what animals they live off of, but in that sense they pretty much live off of animals and whatever animals they have, and they live off the food that way. Going to more countries that are more developed and less rural like Mongolia, when you have restaurants and shops, they usually will have pretty much all countries I've been to so far. And that's including Japan, Korea, China, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Cambodia, and briefly in Thailand. Is they all usually have catering things for vegetarians, and a lot of Asian meals are very vegetable based. I find especially in Southeast Asia that the meals with meat are usually, they add meat to a vegetarian meal. So if you're a vegetarian, you'll most likely save a lot of money traveling these countries because you won't be paying for the horrible meat which you regretted paying for in the first place. The problem though with being a vegetarian, you will find traveling places like China, for instance, where there's a massive language barrier, is they might not understand why you're asking for a meal, just vegetables. So if you're against eating any animal products, countries where there can be a bit of a language barrier might be an issue. But as it goes for buying fruits, this is another thing that can vary a lot. I found it actually worse in more expensive countries like Japan and Korea, sort of Hong Kong, to buy fruit and stuff like that, you know, for lunch. The thing is, in Japan the foods were fairly expensive when it comes to fruits, and the same as Korea is you can pay a lot for fruit. Fruit is more of a present item in Japan. They'll use it as a gift rather than actually something in a Western country which you use as just a general snack. You know, in China for instance, fruit was very easy to come across. Vegetables are very easy to come across if you're going to cook your own meals, which can be difficult if you're in a hostel. But if you have the ability to cook your own meals, for example, if you're living in China, deciding to move to places like China or wherever, and you're going to have your own apartment, that's completely different. You know, being a vegetarian then will pretty much be easy as pie. It's just when you're eating out. So when it comes to buying stuff out of supermarkets, China, Japan and Korea and Hong Kong have their own supermarkets, and that way it's a lot easier. Problem though is in Southeast Asia, I found, is that when you're going to, you don't really have these supermarkets, a lot of mostly convenience stores, unless you're going to the major cities. There were a few towns which had supermarkets, but they're very hidden away and you have to do your research to find them. When there's a will, there's a way, is my opinion. You know, I wouldn't not go travelling because you're a vegetarian. Now, there are ways around it even if you are going to a country. You know, say for example, if you are going to somewhere like Mongolia where there really is a lack of these substances, you can bring other forms of food like long life foods with you if you have the ability to carry it. So say if you're spending 2 weeks in Mongolia, you could bring 2 weeks worth of food which you can prepare yourself. The problem is people don't always understand our Western ways. You know, there aren't many Mongolians, or if any, that are vegetarians. So I'm sorry I'm using one country as an example here and there. It's just to give you an idea of perspective. If I talk about 20 other countries, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But going back onto it, is that you can bring your own foods. They may get a bit offended, but you know, the end of the day is if they don't understand, then, you know, it's not something you can do much about. In China, for example, if you go there, it's more polite if you eat more. So it's unlike somewhere, for example, England, where I'm from and where I'm at the second, where if you eat less, it seems more polite. You know, in England, you'll have, for example, 8 prawns around the table, and there usually is always one left from where no one wants to be the greedy one who takes the last one, and then it's usually like 10 minutes of silence, and then you're like, does anyone want that? And then so the last person will take it. Whereas in China, it's more polite to eat everything in a weird way. Especially if they've cooked it, they see that you like it, that's their way of being like, wow, he really likes my food. So in those ways, if you're turning food down, they might take offence and think it's not very nice. But like I said, if you can learn some really basic language, it can actually help you. You know, you can say, I don't eat meat products. It's a lot to learn, and languages in China and other places, it might not pronounce right, but it's about making yourself feel comfortable. But like I said, I really wouldn't make these things put you off. It's just if you're ready for them, you know what to expect, and it usually doesn't make it a problem within your journey. If you're expecting it, you can work on it. If you're not expecting it, it shocks you and it can actually upset you quite a bit. I have met someone who's a vegan even trying to travel, and she only stuck to Japan. I don't personally believe you'd be able to survive as a vegan in some of these countries. I mean, it's just more maybe because you can't read up on what's put in it. But I don't know too much about being a vegan. I mean, you know, I can't really give much advice on that. But going to countries where they speak English, you generally won't struggle. They may make a joke every now and then, but that's just their lack of understanding. But never take offence. They joke about my hair, they do loads of things. When I'm filming, for example, they really do not understand that. Don't take offence to it. They're just not as well educated on the Western culture because they're not from it. They usually only know their own country, because the poorer countries especially, they don't get the opportunity like we do to travel, so they only have what they know of their local area. But in essence, it's not impossible, and it's far from super difficult. It just has its little difficulties. I mean, I personally am not a vegetarian. I cannot speak 100%, but I have met people that are, and they have travelled a lot of these countries. They sometimes, you know, have to sacrifice a thing here and there, but they said, you know, they were basically dying of starvation. But they're in the most remote, horrible places, and they even said, like, you know, yeah, it's very rare that they've had any problems. The people I've spoken to, all I would say to it is go ahead and go and travel. You really won't have many factors in travel that should stop you. I mean, you know, if you really want to do it, you should go and do it. And if it's something that is holding you back, don't let it. Because these sort of things, you arrive in a country and it might stress you out a bit, but then you'll wonder why you're so stressed out all this time and worrying about it. You spent the last year not going travelling because of it, and then you decide to, then you arrive and you're like, I've just wasted a year worrying about something, and it usually is well out of perspective in your mind compared to what it is in reality. So, and that's with a lot of things. So I hope this video has been helpful, and I am sorry for the lack of content the last few days. I have just been enjoying relaxing. It's been actually really nice to not do anything, you know, video based wise for a few days. I'm getting back into it. The weather has been god awful in England, I'm not going to lie about that one, and it's freezing. I was intending to go cycling. I think 2 days ago I walked up to the shed. That's about as far as I got, and it was like 1 degree outside. And as far as I got was opening the shed, looking at the bike and going no, and then closing the shed, locking it back up and coming back into the house. So I would like to go for a cycle. I do intend to do it this week, because I would like to actually go out and explore some little towns up the road. I know what they look like, but it'd be nice to actually go and see them again. So back onto the subject. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't let things deter you. You know, good on you for sticking to your guns if you do decide to go and carry on being a vegetarian. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care now, guys. Bye now.